So I think the best advice that I could give to incoming freshmen is to utilize both everything that UAF and Fairbanks has to offer. So most importantly, I think college goes well beyond just school. There's a lot of cool experiences that you can have outside the classroom that teach you as much about the world as you get out of a classroom, but also more importantly about like who you are and what you love. So whether it's utilizing like the free passes that they give for ski land, so getting out and snowboarding and everything, or getting out to see, Northern Lights when it's a clear night and they're out dancing. I think one of the biggest realizations I've had over my time here in Fairbanks is that there's a lot more that plays into going to college than just the classroom itself. So I think utilizing everything that college has to offer is really important. In all honesty, I got tired of asking too many questions in physics about strange things, such as the different effects in quantum mechanics specifically, and hearing the reply that that's not physics, that's philosophy. So I came here as a physics major and I switched to philosophy, which I absolutely love. I'm into philosophy of science. So after my first year of hearing that kind of reply over and over again, I decided to go study philosophy. So I've continued with physics and math throughout school, but philosophy grew on me. And it's such a vast discipline that it seems to have its roots in both the conceivable and inconceivable. So I think that's a huge part of why I became a philosophy major. So after I graduate, I hope to pursue a career that incorporates both astrophotography, which I am currently. I'm an astrophotographer and I'm an aurora chaser, with the philosophy. So nature will always be my happy place. It's my peace. So I hope to someday do something research-based, ideally, using my knowledge in philosophy, especially metaphysics and argumentative logic here in Alaska, and specifically here at UAF. And I can't imagine living anywhere else, so I hope to kind of balance the two sides of my life right now, which is astrophotography and kind of the academic end of it. So I think it would be unfair to say just one professor had a big impact on me. So it was both Dr. Eduardo Wilner and Dr. Seth Jones. They teach two entirely different ways and on incredibly different topics in philosophy, and yet they overlay in such a way that you get a vast view of both the sciences and how our experiences as humans create things ranging from ethics to the sciences. So it's fair to say philosophy is sort of the study of all other studies at its core, and I think they do a great job of sparking interest in not only philosophy, but all the related disciplines stemming from those philosophical roots. So I think something that still sticks in my head that Eduardo specifically said, and it's not so much what he said, but the meaning of it. He kind of pointed out that philosophy is something that is at the core of every other discipline. So when you're studying philosophy, you're literally studying like where disciplines root. And I think that's kind of a cool thing that I've kept with me. And it's one of those weird things that you can take into the world and recognize it in the world. So it doesn't matter if you're like studying law, for example, you're getting into argumentative logic, or if you're studying the sciences, you're studying scientific theory. So there's just such a vast encompassment of what philosophy is the study of. And I think Eduardo really kind of gave that to us and pushed that to us. So I think that's kind of something that stuck with me. So I received one scholarship. Actually, I've received a couple, but the main scholarship that I've received was right before COVID. And that was the Rudy Crucci Memorial. It was part of the philosophy program, and I'm an older student, meaning that I've worked for quite a few years before coming to school, and I've moved around a bit and all of that. So scholarships like that were literally what allowed me to stay in Alaska, especially during that time period, because at the time we didn't know it, but everything got shut down after that. So it was hugely important for my ability to stay here in Alaska and stay in school and all of that. So I think the importance of it couldn't be understated, and the timing of it was really, really important to me as well. I think one of the coolest projects I worked on here at UAF during my time here at UAF, I should say, was my AGU project. So that's American Geophysical Union, which ended up being published by both NASA and Harvard. So that's really cool. It was a fun combination of my photography life and my physics life and my argumentative logic roots in philosophy. So I think it's the first time that I can say I fully applied my teachings or knowledge in philosophy to both the applied sciences, to build an argument for both the cameras that I was building for this project. And I was using it to kind of build an argument for what the future of both photography and how citizen science can be validated as real science, with those argumentative philosophical roots. So it was kind of like, it was a really cool project to me because it encompassed everything that I was to that point and incorporated like 3 different aspects of my personality, whether it was photography or physics or philosophy in this case. So it was a really cool project. So I think it's fair to say that most of our biggest challenges at UAF over the past couple of years anyway, had to do with COVID. And COVID was such a big hit to this area, both with people getting sick and so much changing and closing in such a short period here in Alaska. It was a weird time. It was weird during that time. So many of my friends ended up leaving and going back home. I think Alaska in particular kind of amplified the nature of isolation. So it felt very isolated here compared to most other places. So it was mentally taxing and it was hard to remain kind of a full-time student and remain like your mental state beyond just school. That being said, I think there's still sort of side effects that I'm experiencing now with that. I don't think it's something that you fully move through very quickly. But I think it's fair to say like one of the qualities that I like about myself is my perseverance. And I think under pressure like that, it helped me to get through it by focusing on school almost, where I just kind of like buried myself in it for those couple of years. So I think there's also something to be said for the UAF mental health program, which I think would be unfair to mention at this point, or unfair to not mention, because that helped me a ton. So those are infinitely valuable tools that we have at UAF. Okay, I have kind of a fun one for this. So an interesting fact about myself that most people don't know is that it actually took me 5 years to get through high school. I wasn't at all interested in education or school or any of it until I came across the Auroras. So I realized that I love Auroras and how much I love science through that sort of, that place in my life. I started to get interested in the sciences and wondered if I could do it as a thing. And coming to UIF, I literally started from the ground up because I just didn't have that kind of formalized high school backing. A lot of my high school life was spent not in school. So I think it kind of shows like how much can change in a short period. Just the fact that I went from being somebody not interested in education at all to somebody that values it infinitely now. So that's huge thanks to UIF for that. So I was selected as this year's outstanding student for the philosophy program, and I think I was selected just because I'm so incorporated with the philosophy department, and I've been incorporated with it for ever since my start here at UAF. So I helped run what was called Socratic Society for 2 years before COVID. That was our kind of student club for philosophy majors, as well as ethics and people that did ethics in society and that whole side of it. So there's a lot of different disciplines there, but philosophy was a big part of that. I was pretty well-rounded with everybody in the department. I feel like I knew everybody. And I think one of the things that I think I'm better at than most others is bringing my knowledge of philosophy into other disciplines. So I think that's something that I kind of pride myself on, is not just keeping philosophy within philosophy, but also going into other disciplines that I have some versatility in and using kind of my philosophy background as a tool to help in a way with their arguments. And as we saw with the project, with all of that, I think it helps bring some new aspects into other disciplines. So I think being able to communicate your discipline to other disciplines is a huge part of what kind of led me to be the outstanding student. What I think it takes to stand out as a student in general, I think the biggest thing is being able to communicate your discipline outside of your discipline. I don't think it matters necessarily what discipline it is, but if you have the ability to communicate your discipline to others outside of it, whether it's through teaching or through helping or through projects or whatever else, I think that really, really makes a name for yourself in your given department, because then you have recognition from not only your department, but other departments as well. Okay, so I think my biggest takeaway from college is that I'm a person that's infinitely interested in learning, as odd as that may sound. I feel like I have learned more than all else that I'm a curious person, and on difficult topics that border on the edge of inconceivability, they just don't scare me, but rather excite me and draw interest to me. So I think I went from being a person that was scared of inconceivability to being somebody that's drawn to it. And I think that's a huge takeaway to me, that I'm always infinitely drawn to the things that are the most curious in the world.